Well, hey there, everyone, and welcome to Energy Gale Meditations. I'm Lisa. There's a timestamp below if you want to go right to the guided meditation, but I encourage you to stick around, at least for the first time through, to unpack together what it is that is baked into this guided meditation. It's a big one today. It is not what I thought I had planned. Gone are my plans. And in its place is something that I sense that God, Source, divine intelligence, the universe, is pressing in to say, this is what we talk about today. This is where the guided meditation goes today. So there's this thing that so many of us do, comparing ourselves. You know, I was a personal trainer for about 30 years, and so many times women would come in and they would say, I want to fit back into my wedding gown. That's my goal, to fit back into my wedding gown. There was this way of looking backwards to say, I want to look like that again. And very often it was unrealistic. I mean, they'd had babies. They were maybe in their 50s, 60s. Their hormones were not the same. It was not a realistic goal, and it certainly was not kind and compassionate for themselves. Constantly to compare themselves to other people or even to a previous version of themselves. And I sense that's a lot of what Spirit is saying to me, is because I've been finding myself doing this in just this past couple of hours. In my messiness, I started to compare myself to other people, and I wouldn't say that I didn't think that I was enough necessarily, but what I felt like was I don't look like somebody else, and everybody likes this other person, so I need to be more like them. But I know that I'm actually not like them, so where does that leave me? And this whole idea of comparing ourselves, it really is the killer of joy. To be able to rest so assured in the one that we are already is such a beautiful gift. To be at peace and in a place of peace with who we are at the core of our being. That doesn't mean that you don't have your goals. Doesn't mean you don't have your dreams and your aspirations. Leave your expectations at the door. But to be in a place of peace with who you know yourself to be. And I mean that not just as a spark of God, like everybody is, but I mean that even as someone with the experiences that you've had, with the personality traits that you've brought in as this particular human iteration that you are incarnating at this time. You know, I have the personality where I can be a little OCD when it comes to keeping things clean and organized. That's just the way I roll. I'm aware of if it gets a little bit too much, but for the most part, I just really, really like to have things clean and organized and scheduled. And I've learned to appreciate that about myself rather than be like, oh, I wish I was more just laid back and easy. Well, guess what? That isn't the way that I was created. This is me. This is the Lisa I have come to know. And now can I come to a place of accepting and then celebrating, not just allowing, but adoring that this is me. This is the God aspect that I'm experiencing as Lisa. So yeah, it's a lot about not comparing. You know, there's this poem that T.S. Eliot wrote, and I wish I would have it perfectly, but I didn't know I was going to be saying it. Is he basically says, I went out on a journey and I went here, there, and everywhere. And when I came back, I saw the place that I was at originally with brand new eyes. It's like I saw it all over again. And I think that the journey that I have been on has been going and trying to be all these other people. trying to be some kind of fitness maniac where I'm running marathons and 100 miles. And for a season of time, man, that was fun. But I knew that it really wasn't me. It wasn't what I wanted to experience next. I didn't want to stay there. Or someone who, God, I would love to be a rock star. I'd love to be a musician. And I love music. But as far as being someone who'd be out on tour and everything else, no. After 8 o'clock at night, I just get tired. And I want to go to bed. So probably not going to be able to be a rock star. And I remember trying my hand at being a culinary cook. And you know what? Even after, that bored me. I was like, no, it's fun to make a dinner here and there, but I wouldn't want to live in the kitchen. So it's a matter of all these other iterations, all these other little things that I tried out, then to come back and realize, you know who I am? At the very beginning, I was someone who loved to sit under a tree, read a book, be quiet, go for walks through quiet places like cemeteries and forests, and ponder things and have quiet conversations. And I loved poetry and singing. And it's funny because I think I'm coming back to that place, having been through all the other experiences and glad for those experiences. But coming back because I left because I didn't think it was good enough. I left because I thought that there was something better out there. I left because I didn't think that what I had to offer was anything that was that big of a deal, that was that great. And now that I'm returning, I'm seeing it as if for the first time. I'm seeing who I am, and not just like I said, like a God spark, but as the Lisa that I have come to really get to know even more and allow my essence to come even further down into my body and be honoring to this human that I am, this incarnation that I am as Lisa, to be curious about her, not to try to manipulate and control and make her be what I think that she ought to be, but to just allow her to unpack herself to me and be delighted. And as I find myself, and I think it's a spiral, you don't actually come all the way back to the same exact place. It's like you can never step in the same river twice. It's always different. But as I spiral around and find myself back into a similar space, meeting back up with myself, I'm finding myself saying, oh, I like this one. She's just right. What is it? Father bear, mother bear, baby bear. Too hot, too cold. Whatever. Just right. Yeah. I like me. I don't know if you've ever, this is getting like way personal. I don't know if you've ever come into a place of saying, yeah, I love myself. And that was a big, big journey to love myself. That was a freaking long journey for me. That was like 40 years. But how curious I was to find out that after loving myself, I also had to learn to know who I am beyond God's spark. Because there's more, there's Lisa. And to like her. I'm going to get all emotional. Like Sally Field, you like me? You really like me? When she accepted her award. But in all seriousness, to come to a place of saying, okay, I get it. I'm a God spark. And so I love me. Because I am love. But to go even further, beloved, to go even further and say, now let me meet this human iteration that I am now, that is experiencing godness in human form. Let me get to know this one. And like, her, him, they, them, like, enjoy. And I think for me, part of that journey has been this embodiment coming down into physical form. As a human, obviously, but I mean like allowing my awareness to come down more fully into my physical form, down into my body, out of all the thinking and the figuring out and the controlling and the manipulating and looking outside of myself to try to figure out how I can be good enough, or at least be someone that is likable, to come all the way back to myself, remember myself as God Spark, then get to know myself as Lisa, and then allow those energies, those God energies, to come down into the form known as Lisa, and say, oh God, I really like this. I really like this. You guys are probably like, what the heck is she talking about? But you know what? I'm just going to go with it. I am just going to let it. I'm not going to delete this. I am just going to allow it. So that's what I have for us today. As far as our guided meditation, I never know what it's going to be because I don't plan it, but I have a feeling it'll have a lot to do with breath. If anything I'm saying is like landing, I would love to have a conversation around it. So if you could leave a comment, that'd be awesome. Check out my website. I got lots of other things that I offer. And in the meantime, loving yourself as God Spark, as love itself, and then coming into a place of realizing that you're also a human being, not needing to be controlled or manipulated, but to be curious about and to integrate all this beautiful godness and humanness into one. To be 100% God and 100% human is to be a powerful being indeed. Enjoy your meditation today. So as we begin our meditation today, I'll start with a quote by Huxley in his book, The Doors of Perception. And he says this: to be enlightened is to be aware, always, of total reality in its immanent otherness, to be aware of it and yet to remain in a condition to survive as an animal, to think and feel as a human being, to resort whenever expedient to systematic reasoning. Our goal is to discover that we have always been where we ought to be. Thank you, Huxley, for that. We have always been where we ought to be. What was it, the Lord of the Rings, that the Hobbit, all the way there and back again, to infinity and beyond. I think one of those characters in the Disney or Pixar said, we're fascinated with going out there, only to find ourselves gently being led back again. And not back to the same place necessarily, because it can never be the same. We're different, and so that makes the place be different. As we continue to ponder going and coming back, the ebb and flow of life, become aware of your breath. If you can feel that air coming in through your nose and down through your throat, you can imagine it passing your heart space and down into the lungs and then down into the belly. And then as you release it, imagine it coming up through the lungs and the heart space through the throat and back out through the nose or the mouth. And this easy breathing in and breathing out. The inhale and the exhale. Just becoming aware of this breath in and breath out, and feeling how relatively easy it is to lay here, listening to the wind outside, and breathe, listening to a train in the far, far distance. To be aware that there is a world that, yes, is outside of us, but there is also an incredible, fantastic world that exists within us. And we forget about that. So again, just easy focus on the breath in and the breath out. An easy focus on the inhale and the exhale. As we remember to breathe, as we remember that the power exists within us and that we don't need to look outside of us for power. We can connect that to the breath. If we can connect every time we feel like we're losing power, anytime we feel doubt creep up, if we can just come back to the breath. If any time our body starts to react in fear, if we can come back to the breath. If it's possible, wherever we are, to say, if you'll excuse me for just a moment, and find a safe space. A corner of a room, a chair. Best yet, a tree to sit under. A bench in a park. A walking path. If we can just get to a safe place and or out in nature and just focus on the breath. Oh, that would be so healing in and of itself, to bring us back into our bodies, out of fear, and in a place of just allowing ourselves to be present with our bodies. And to be curious about what's going on inside of our bodies. We could practice that now. As you take these few moments to become aware of the breath moving from outside of you inside and then back outside of you. Again, that holy exchange. Can you also become aware of your left knee? And not just the outside of that left knee, but the inside where the joint is. Can you become aware of that? Can you feel inside the knee? Where the bones meet and the patella, that cap of the knee, lays. How about your right ankle? Can you become aware not only of the skin on the outside of your ankle, but can you become aware of the bones on the inside of your ankle? That tendon called the Achilles tendon that holds things in place there. Can you go inside your body and feel what it feels like to be inside the bones even? Yeah. be so curious, to get to know and feel this physical form. It is your temple. It is something that you can make be a safe place, even if it has not been safe in the past. Even if you have never been encouraged to come back home to yourself. Not just in theory, but in a very real way, to inhabit your body. All of your essence and godness and awareness and consciousness, to allow it to fill up your physical form. I mean, you realize it's bigger than your physical form. We think that our soul exists in our body, but it's not really that way. Our body exists within our soul, our essence, our godness. I mean, it's both, really. Like a fish in water. There's water in the fish, and the fish is in the water as well. And that's the way it is with us. Sure, we got a lot of God spark inside, and we also have a lot of God spark outside of the body too. And the body itself is God spark. How about them apples? Just continuing to breathe. There's nothing that needs to be hard or fancy or step by step. What if it was really this easy? Beloved, what if it really was this easy? What if we've just been taught that it's hard and we believed that? Why? So what I think I'm going to do for this meditation, I've never done this before. I think I'm going to let the music continue to play. And I'm not going to talk. I'm going to allow you to just spend a few minutes feeling inside your body. And if you say to your body, I'm interested and intrigued by getting to know you, it'll point itself out to you. It'll start to speak. So just start to listen and become curious. And if anything hurts, love it. Whatever happens, whatever you meet, love it. Love it. Enjoy some time with you. May peace be your guide. May peace be the wind that glides you from here to there and back again.